waiting to let everyone in. How are you all doing? Nancy, I was interested to find out how your friend is doing and whether he's showing signs of improvement. Wait, can't hear you.
He's doing so much better. Thank you all for the good thoughts. He's got cleared to go back to work. It's my hopes he'll at least wait a couple days, but he's doing 100% better. Thank you.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Okay, let's just give everyone a couple of more minutes to get everyone in, and then I can start. Okay. I see we have I got an email from Leonie, but I see that you're on the webinar today. So I wondered if you'd prefer me to read out your email, or if you want to tell us what's been happening for you. Leonie, if you can give me a thumbs up to go ahead and read your email, or whether you prefer to speak yourself, let me know. Okay, I'm going to read the email. So Leonie normally, I think, watches the recording, and she sent an email that I just thought would be great to share with you, just that the story is so relevant to how we should just allow and surrender to what needs to happen and what needs to unfold in our lives without trying to control it or to know the outcomes. So she says, "Hi, Kate and everyone in the group. For the past 6 months, I have been in mourning, as well as trying to navigate all of this movement in the collective energies. My mum passed away after a lengthy illness, 9 years after we accompanied my father on his final journey. Needless to say, it has been a journey of note for me, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to have been able to assist them. I've learned a great deal, and 2020 was the year I had several breakthroughs and many lessons. Through the pain, the anger, the frustration, regret, and guilt, I've come to not only accept our family dynamics, but love myself in the process. This group has provided me much assistance as I observe everyone making massive gains in their journey and have the knowledge that I am not alone in my way of thinking and outlook on the world and all that has transpired as a collective and on an individual level. I live in an isolated area of the state of Washington with forest and creek in my backyard, so I've had the fortune of communing with nature daily, and it truly has saved my sanity and peace of mind. I have always loved nature more than anything else, and now understand why it speaks to me so deeply. As I pondered what and where the next chapter of my life would hold for me, I took advantage of Damien Wynn, Lee Harris, Laurie Ladd, Phil Good, Dr. Tommy John, Dr. Christine Northrup, and to name a few. I live in perpetual gratitude for the manner in which these people, as well as this group, has been accessible. Last week, I flew to Arizona to visit my cousin. Without expectation, in complete surrender and trust, and with open curiosity, I embarked on a mini holiday. To my utter delight and complete amazement, although I realize I created this, the pieces all fell into place. A place to live and numerous job opportunities, as well as the University of Sedona. Once I let go of my human need to control and totally surrendered, I was gifted with everything I needed for this new chapter. Always grateful how the universe supports a loving and trusting heart. With love and gratitude, Leonie." So I love that, because I thought it was a real example of what happens when we just surrender and let it all happen. And not always easy. Certainly, I find it difficult myself, and am challenged almost on a daily basis in some way or form to trust and to surrender and to let go. So it is an ongoing journey. But when we do it with no expectation, with no attachment to an outcome, that is often the result. So congratulations, Leonie, on your new life and your new journey. I look forward to hearing about how it goes and when you get there. And I know that there are a few people on the webinar on the group who are in Arizona. So if anyone would like to get in touch and connect, that might also be a good idea. Okay, so we are certainly in a real, I suppose, up and down phase is all I can say. And I was pleasantly surprised in this week in looking and feeling into the energies that we are in at the moment and what we're heading into. And it feels like for the first time in a long time, the energies are a little bit more positive. So I didn't want to get overly excited about that because the universe's version of positive and my version of positive are not always exactly the same. But there seems to have been quite a shift that has happened, and it occurred with the new moon. I don't know how you guys felt on Thursday, but I woke up on Thursday feeling like I had been hit by a bus. It was I felt like my entire body was just constricting. I had a headache, my neck, my shoulders, my hips, everything just felt like it was constricting. And I did wonder at the time if there was some resistance that was going on in me that was resisting this new energy that was moving in. And I do know from previous experience that sometimes when there's such a dramatic shift in the energy and the new energy starts coming in and it is so different, there is a bit of resistance because it's like, oh, what is this? I've gotten used to a particular flow of energy. This feels different. So I did wonder if it was a bit of that. But by Friday, it was absolutely gone. I woke up on Friday and it was fine. So I'm wondering how you guys all felt last week. Lorraine said she had vertigo for 2 days. So yeah, there's definitely it's a shift, but it seems to be a really positive shift. So I'm excited about that and excited to see how that unfolds for us. What I did feel as well is that the incoming energies are feeling more dynamic, and definitely focused on taking action or action orientated rather than the processing and the integration that we seem to have been doing for what feels like forever. However, and this is, where the but comes in, you may find that you aren't feeling the need to take action quite yet because we are still in the throes of a Mercury retrograde. So Mercury retrograde ends on the 20th of this month. So we've got another week of that Mercury retrograde energy, but there's almost a shadow period where, so even though Mercury retrograde comes to an end, there's another week or two of shadow, that we'll still be processing that energy. So my sense is that as we move into March, we're going to feel a different kind of energy. We're going to feel a lot more energized and a lot more excited about taking action on things. There'd been some, Leonie's also said headache and tight muscles, but she's also feeling much better. So that's good. Jennifer had weepy with feelings of heaviness until Friday, then it just lifted and also feeling much better. So, everyone seems to have felt that shift. The other thing that I felt, looking into the energies and kind of said, well, I like to look at what is the what is it that we need to focus on moving forward. I like to be quite action orientated in my own life. So I always feel if I get clear direction around what it is that I need to be doing, then I can put up my energy into that instead of feeling my energies all scattered all over the place. And the themes that keep coming up are self-care, and along with the self-care comes the need for rest. So we are still in this time where self-care is our primary focus. We are recovering, and that's the word that I got. We are recovering from the intensity of the last few months. And I know that it feels like we've been in this intensity for a year now, what with lockdowns and everything that's happened in the past year. But actually in the last 3 months, the intensity of the energy has been more than I think we've ever experienced before. And so we're recovering from that intensity. And so taking care of ourselves and really resting is key, because what it will do is give our physical body the time it needs to adjust to the capacity that it has now expanded into. So if you can imagine the physical body, our physical life, as a container for the energies, that container has been expanding in the last few months, quite significantly. And with that expansion, we're now existing in a different way, but in a different size and in a different shape. And so we need to adjust to that capacity. We need to, and part of what we've been moving through in the last few months has also been the clearing of what is no longer needed within our container. So that container, for much of our life, has been a particular size, and it has held a lot of the energy that we have experienced in this lifetime, but also because it has held the energy of our soul, it's held the energy of past lives as well. So a lot of that stuff is what we have been clearing and purging, which has enabled us to start expanding and changing the shape of this container so that we can embody more of our soul's energy, pure energy, not the karmic stuff, but the pure energy of our soul within this container. So that is also why we've been having these incredibly, for me certainly, frustrating physical reactions or responses to things. I've certainly lived with discomfort on a physical level, and at times it's been a lot more than discomfort, for many years. And I didn't, I understood that my body was releasing cellular memory. I realized that there were areas in my body where there was things that had been stuck, that there was resistance, and I did my best to work through all of those things. But what I've been shown now is that actually the entire container of our physical body, our shape, has changed. And part of me is thinking, oh, well, that's just getting old. I'm never going to look like I did when I was 20, but apparently not. Apparently the entire physical structure of our body has shifted and changed. And that is a necessary process so that we're able to hold a greater capacity, which I thought was an interesting take on what's been happening. I don't know how anyone else is feeling about that. There are some messages here, so I just want to get to those too. Nancy's just also mentioning very disturbing dreams, which is unusual. Yeah, I've had, after not dreaming, well, it felt like I hadn't dreamed for a long time. This week there've been some really strange ones. Lynn says, feel like something inside has changed, like empty, but actually it feels like something completely different. I walked in the forest and saw a stream frozen on the top and then flowing underneath. It felt like an analog to how I feel, not moving on the outside, but flowing on the inside with something new. Oh, that is beautiful. I like that. Jennifer's also having really wild dreams. Very strange. I actually woke myself up from a dream the other night because I was so angry in my dream and shouting at someone, that poor person. But I actually woke myself up because I was so angry. It was really weird. Someone else says CLK has also said, I'm feeling that too. Sometimes it feels like parts of my physical is turning inside out, as tension and of frozen energy is melting. A lot to go through, but amazing when it's through. Yeah, I agree. It does feel amazing when it does move and it does shift. Okay, so then back onto this capacity and the physical changes and shift that is happening.
Kate, can I ask you a question?
Sure, Jennifer.
This container, is this shift something that's going to be individual, an individual change? Like, I don't even know what I'm asking. Is the change in container something that's individual, an individual thing for each person?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, my sense of it is that it's very much linked to, let me start again. How much you feel and how much you experience of this shift or change in the container is dependent on what you've experienced in your life, the karmic stuff that you've brought into this lifetime, as well as how aligned you are at this time currently with your soul purpose. So it's not that we don't live our soul purpose every day, but when we are conscious of what that soul purpose is, we can shift and adjust and align our lives in a way that works to support that purpose rather than works often in conflict with it. So for people who feel very much that they're in line with their soul purpose, that their life is created or set up in a way that supports that purpose, the expansion may be a little bit easier than for those who like me, are quite resistant, obviously. And then there are other people who it will be an incredibly painful process because there's a lot that still needs to be released. There's a lot that still needs to be cleared. My understanding and what I've gotten around this is that those people are more likely to be on the beginning, at the beginning of their healing journey. For those of us that have been on a healing journey for many, many years, the adjustment is going to be quicker. It's going to be, it might be more intense, but certainly that intensity won't last. So I think a bit like what we experienced over the new moon period, where we, that incredible discomfort and then that sudden release. There was almost like nothing that we did, well, certainly nothing that I did initiated that release. It just seemed to happen. And I think that that's also, what we're going through. It'll feel like the energy comes in and the container is about to burst. And then suddenly there will be that release and it'll open.
Thank you. That helps a lot. I've just been wondering whether those containers are merging. With the expansion, whether individual containers, will they merge? I guess that's where my question came from.
My sense is it's going to be a bit like a puzzle, that each one of us is a particular shape and we're going to fit together to create the picture of what needs to be created, rather than we all become one big container. I think we all create one big image or picture, but we're all an individual piece of that picture. And some people are going to, fit together quite closely, and other people are going to be, but we're all part of the same picture. Ingrid's just written, that's a nice image, the puzzle bits. What's shifting is the size of what I do and the depth of what I do. Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's a really positive thing that is and I am feeling like I just feel this real sense of lightness around it. It doesn't feel heavy, and I must admit there have been times that I've prepared for these weekly webinars and sat quietly and felt into what's going on and gotten the insight and information, and have sat and thought, how do I package this in a way that doesn't feel heavy and burdens us, because it's been difficult. There are times where I put my head in my hands and I thought, there was like I wrote in this week's daily inspiration, something around there'll be more transformation. And as I wrote that, I just thought, oh, really? Have we not been through enough? And I did get a couple of emails back from people saying, did you really have to tell us that? But I'm feeling like the transformation now is a lot more positive than it has been in the past. Sarah's just written, my energy has been a complete roller coaster ride the last couple of weeks, and energy feeling like it has fallen off a shelf. I'm on a recovery journey from CFS, but this has been extreme. I also feel like my heart chakra has been bursting open following the rebirth course with Lee Harris. I've been having some strange dreams about my ex-husband too. Maybe the purging you mentioned. The last couple of days I have felt much calmer. I wonder if this ties in with what you mentioned about the container. I feel like my heart has been bursting with joy for the future body. For the future, body isn't quite ready to keep up. It's so lovely to join you you all for the first time. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you. Yeah, I've also been feeling that lightness, and there has been the sense of joy, which is different compared to how I felt a few weeks ago. So there's definitely this shift that is, and this transformation that is a lot more positive than it has been in the past.
Thank you, Kate, and lovely to meet you all.
Thanks, Sarah. So with this expansion and this container shifting and changing shape, what is going to be important in the coming months and the coming years is the action that we take. So there are many of us have had ideas, inspirations, visions, dreams, intuitive senses around things that we should be doing or would like to do, or and at the time haven't been able to do them because from having small children to not knowing how you would be able to make a living from it, etc., etc. So as we move forward with this new energy, these inspirations, these ideas, these dreams, these visions are going to start to surface again. And we're going to have to look at them, relook at them to determine whether now is the time for us to implement them and to start working towards actualizing them. There are going to be choices that we need to make and directions that we need to choose. So getting clear about those choices and those directions is important, and getting clear on the opportunities that we have. So how do we get clear on that? Well, we've got to tap into what our soul feels is most important. So it is from a soul perspective that we look at these opportunities, not from a head-based perspective. The other thing that is important is that we are no longer bound to the old karmic cycles and to the past. So we don't have to repeat the past. We don't have to repeat the same things or live life in the same way ever again. That can be a little bit unsettling, because it does mean that we step out into something completely new. We're carving out a new path. We are moving in a direction that we have not moved in before. So the uncertainty and there may be concern and worry about, will I fail? Will I succeed? Is this something that is going to serve me moving forward? Am I going to be able to survive? Those kind of questions may arise. What you need to do is to find a way, and the way that is most beneficial for you, and the easiest way that you can find to connect with your soul and to feel what it is that your soul's guidance is revealing. So if you have, there's a very simple exercise that's coming to me while I'm talking to you now, is that if you have choices to make, get a piece of paper, write that one choice on each piece of paper, put them out on the floor, not too close to each other, and put your hand on this higher heart area. I think I've spoken about it before. You put your right hand on this higher heart area. You step onto one piece of paper. Close your eyes. What does it feel like to step onto that choice? What does your body feel like? What goes on in your head when you step into that space? What are the emotions that come up? Is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is there worry? Is there a definite no? What is it? It's a very simple technique that you can do. Get off it. Allow yourself to just clear the energy of that. So that just shaking your hands. And then you do the same thing. Put your hand here, step onto the next piece of paper, and again, feel into what does that choice feel like. You might have to, and then when, the ones where you get a positive feeling, keep those ones, take the other pieces of paper away again. If there's a choice between 2 or 3 options, put those 2 or 3 options down again and go through the process again until you get clearer and clearer as to what feels right. Because our soul communicates often in feelings versus in thoughts. And the feeling of what it feels like in our body can be the guidance that we need moving forward. And also remember that you can always choose again. So if you make a choice and you step into it and you realize this actually isn't, 2 weeks down the line, this doesn't feel right. 2 months down the line, this doesn't feel right anymore. You can choose again, because there may be something that you've gained in those 2 weeks or in those 2 months that you need to be able to make the next decision or the next choice. So don't feel like if I make a decision today, I've got to live with that decision. I've got to, what's that awful saying? If you make your bed, you've got to lie in it. You don't have to. You can decide again and again and again. So Ingrid's just also written here. This resonates. My mind wants to do what it did in the past, and I don't know how it will all work doing this new work, not knowing exactly how. Well, I think that the how is something that we need to I'm going to refer back to Leonie's email where, if we let go of the expectation of how things should be, we just allow ourselves to do what we need to do every moment of every day. So just stepping into it, you often figure it out versus trying to figure it out before you've even stepped into it. And I often leave the how up to the universe. It's like, I'll do it. You just tell me how. Don't let me work out the how, because I think my working out the how can be dangerous. Karina's just mentioned, over the past 2 weeks, I have found myself stepping into my new work visions. Each time I am brave enough to do this, another level of anxiety and fear seems to melt away and I become closer to myself. Love that. Well done. And I think that is key. It's that every step you take, it is every step that you take. And also, yes, Karina's just written, I asked the question, what would love do? Yeah, that is beautiful.
Kate, I was just going to add in here because I speak faster than I type. It's been quite interesting this week where I've got the sort of offer on my house. I know I'm moving. So, I've suddenly gone into overdrive energy-wise of clearing, sorting. It gets to 9 o'clock in the evening and I'm in bed, I'm knackered. But the energy, while it's there, I'm just using it. But usually I'd keep going when I was really exhausted, but I'm making the choice to say, stop, go to bed, start again tomorrow, get up earlier and do it. So that's happening. I as you know, I won my pitch that I went to France to do, which is great, but I've got to get started on that and do it. And it's almost like I've got to get everything out of the way in order to move forward. But usually I'd sit and say, oh my God, this is such hard work. I'm going to be exhausted. It's going to be difficult, but I'll get through it. And I've stepped back and thought, right, that's my old pattern. And instead, I've addressed it in a completely different way. I've started to move and shift stuff earlier than I should do, just so that it's going to make it easier. And also I've delegated a huge amount of the work and got people in to help me, which I don't usually do. So I've just sort of felt that the old patterns slipped away, and I'm enjoying the process now, rather than in my head sitting there thinking, oh my God, it's just going to be terrible, I've got to get through it and then I can start my life. I'm actually enjoying the process that I'm in, if that makes sense. And it's like I've always had my life on hold, that if I get through this drama, then I'll have some fun, then I'll feel okay. But actually to be in the process of the busiest I've ever been and the most amount to do and feeling buoyant and joyous about it is a completely new experience. So that's it's a good way to feel. Long may it last. And Jennifer, I've cleared about 25 bags from the house, you'll be pleased to hear. So I expect to hear that yours is doing the same. And Nancy's Christmas tree's down. So
Thank God. But when you're done clearing your house, Fiona, feel free to drop by and do my house. I mean, England, New England, kind of the same thing.
Wouldn't it be lovely if we could all just pop around and help Nancy?
Me too. My clearing is not going so well, Fiona. But you're inspiring me. So thank you.
I was going to say that the thing that I did, having watched that program called The Minimalist, which really defines how when you get rid of something, and you've been saying it, Kate, all along, you know, it allows the space for something else to come in. And that little step, which was also down to Nancy, thank you, of, you know, you can live with the consequences, make a decision and just do it. You can always change. That little step, but just everything's roller coasted. So it's inspired me then to do more. It's just not daunting. And I feel so much better because then everything else is happening around it, which is, you know, it's a lightness, as you say, it's a different feeling.
Brilliant. Well done, Fiona. Thank you for sharing that.
This
Joni's
is
also...
one of my Valentines.
Oh, let's have a look. Sweet. I'm loving how all the animals join us.
Yeah. If she took her claws out of me. This is Cookie.
Oh, now she decided she didn't want to be part of the webinar anymore and left.
Not a
Kate,
laugh
I was a bit. Kate, I was a bit slow earlier on when you were talking about the puzzle and how all the pieces are going to fit together. Sorry, I want to hop back over there. We earlier on last year we spoke about that there will be chaos in the world that we know, and the whole what's happened through 2020 and how things are going to be different going forward. When you talk about the pieces of the puzzle, there's going to be resistance. And I don't know if anybody's ever tried to put a puzzle together when somebody's like stolen a piece, or a cat ate a piece, or something like that. Is this how it's going to be for a while, where you're going to get parts of the puzzle that are fitted and other parts that are not coming to it?
That's a good question, Megan. My sense really is that not only are we going to have to wait for pieces that are not yet ready, not lost, but just not ready. There will be times where we are trying to force pieces of puzzles that don't fit together. So it is going to be a bit of a process of working out where we fit exactly and who we fitting with exactly. So there will be this period where we think, this is fantastic. We can feel the pieces of the picture coming together, and it's presenting a certain vision for us. And then all of a sudden we realize that actually we've stuck one piece in that looked like it fitted, but it doesn't actually fit there, and we're going to have to remove it. So there will be some adjustments that are needed as we move forward. But again, we're going to learn something through that process. We'll learn something about ourselves, particularly, and we will become clearer for ourselves on what it is that we're doing, why it is that we're doing what we're doing. I think one of the things that we often forget to do is to look at the motivations behind why we do what we do in our lives, and whether that is in our careers or whether that is in our relationships. If we don't have clarity on the motivation, it can be quite confusing, because then we are trying to fit ourselves into places where we don't really fit, or we're trying to fit ourselves into relationships where we don't really fit. So this will be an adjustment, and it is, I think the key takeaway from this is that that the more we work to find the correct alignment, the more clarity we're going to have around what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Just makes me think that, you know, I think the majority of the people here on this webinar, by the way, you all fit in the pieces on the puzzle when I look at the screen, fits beautifully. That, you know, you've got to do so much inner work. You've got to go within yourself and to identify who you really are before you can start deciding what motivates you to do, whether you're doing it just to be part of the society you're in, or whether you're doing it because it really is you, or if you're just afraid of consequences. So what you're really saying is that the inner work that's going to be happening. So anybody that knows how or can guide others, it's going to be critically important to be able to say, I haven't got the answer for you. The answer's within you, but I can help you go and look for those answers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I mean, I also think, I think that the more, and this kind of contradicts the puzzle image, but the more fluid we can be, the better. I mean, I know for myself that in the past I suppose I get attached to the idea of something or the idea of someone, and as a result of that attachment, which I've often mistaken as loyalty, I block the new things coming in, and I block the opportunities, and I've often had the rug pulled out from underneath me in regard to those situations, almost like the universe has literally had to push me and send me flying off off in a different direction because I have refused to see. So it is important, and the message that I have been getting, it is important that we remain fluid so that we don't become too attached to how things are as they stand right now, knowing that it is changing, that we are in a shift. And this shift in consciousness, whatever shift you want to call it, is going to take time. The place that we're getting to, this new earth that we are birthing, it's not going to take 5 minutes. It's not going to take a year. It's going to take a lot of years. I don't know how many, and there are lots of predictions out there around how many it will take, but we just need to remember that this is an ongoing process, and the clearer we become within ourselves, I suppose the more accepting we can be about that need to be fluid and to move in the direction that our soul is taking us, rather than the direction that our ego or our mind wants to take us or thinks we should take.
I don't think it's a contradiction. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Meg. I was going to add to you, so you finish and then I'll add.
Okay. I don't think what you said is a contradiction. I think what you're actually saying is that you come and you fit into this space and you learn, you grow, and you change your shape and you move to wherever the next piece is that you fit into. And so yes, I don't think it's a contradiction. I'm just saying you're there now, get what you need, and you expand and grow together with whatever's there. So yeah.
Yeah. And Megan, I was wanting to respond to what you said about helping people go within, point out that they need to go within themselves to find the answers. And I heard someone say, describe those of us that are kind of awake right now, because so many people are just beginning the process, that we're kind of on the front line. And so as we become more aware and more, naturally moving into that puzzle piece, that Kate was talking about, and you were saying not everyone is going to have their piece ready right away, that, we help each other here. And then as we get stronger and stronger, as we encounter people, as we all do every day, that are just struggling, that just don't understand what's happening, is to just help them understand that the answers are inside of them, and that to let go of those expectations and just let it be, because we're all learning how to do that. And I know for me personally, the more I purge and release all that old, cellular energy that Kate's been talking about, the more I do that, the more easily I can expand and see things in a bigger and better way. So, and if those of us on the front line, it's just natural for us to help others do that. And I think the more we do that, that's how that change starts happening more and more. And I just think that whole process is beautiful. And that's, I think that's why we've all found each other, and that's what we're here to do, is to help be part of that. So anyway.
Can I just step in as well? Kate, thank you for what you were saying as well about the attachment bits. When you were saying that, I just thought I totally identify with that, when you say you could get really attached to something. And I think that definitely happened to me. And, I dropped you, we were in exchange about my CFS and divorce. And once I left my husband, I thought, right, I'm just going to get on with my life. I want to do something different. I'm going to go and live in Ethiopia, because I was doing a lot of aid work and stuff. I thought, right. And I was doing about 1 million things at once. And then I got typhoid, and then it floored me, and I tried to go back to work too soon and kept trying to achieve. And then basically I was floored. And that was the universe sort of saying, you're not going anywhere. You just need to stay put. And, this is nearly 3 years on now. And I think what's really interesting about the last year was full on for everybody, but also, that was when I was sorting out my divorce. I went through a lot of grief, and my illness was quite bad and all of that sort of stuff. But I feel like now in the best place ever, sort of like this year was like a clean sheet. It felt like, oh, this is quite exciting, which is why I did the rebirth course with Lee Harris, because I thought like I am in that phase of, starting again, and which is really exciting. And I'm at that point where I'm sort of trying to create my vision. And through his course, I realized, even though in my life I've always set goals and I've always wanted to achieve and all of these things and had big aspirations, I realized I'd never actually had a true vision for my life. And it's really exciting. But coming back to your point about the attachment, that's what I've been learning as recently, is like just starting to put things, like on a vision board, or just putting things out there, but not doing that attachment thing, which I've always wanted to do in the past, because it's like a control thing, isn't it? You want to be in control of things. And so it was really refreshing to hear that, because that's actually a reminder. And I think I need to put that on my thing. It's like, don't control it, just put things out. And it's like, I discovered you 2 weeks ago through a friend who I've been holistic things with for the last, basically since lockdown. And just things just keep happening. Like, it's like, it's this little journey, like this one door opens and then another one opens, and it's just that whole thing about trust. And and so it's been a real journey of sort of building that up. So I didn't realize that everybody could join these webinars. So I watched the one from last week. I was like, oh, this is really exciting. And then when it pops in today, I was like, oh, I think I meant to do it today and come and join you all. So yeah, it's really lovely.
Oh, it's great to have you with us. Thank you. And thank you
Thank
for sharing. And I think I love that what you're speaking about is just allowing that flow to happen. So rather than trying to control it by having those attachments, it's just, let's see where the journey takes us. Yes, I'd like to have these things. Yes, I'd like to achieve these things, but how they happen and when they happen, you know, we kind of leave that up to the journey rather than to ourselves. So
I think it's a good reminder for all of us, Kate, is that whole thing of expectation. You know, visualize it, see it, wish for it, and as you're saying, Sarah, don't attach yourself to it. So if it doesn't happen, it's probably because something else is going to happen that is possibly better. So you shouldn't kind of feel you've not achieved something or get that beating up of yourself, which of course we all do. But the other thing I was going to add, Sarah, was I think all of us can remember the day we got introduced to Kate and have never looked back. And actually, it's a kind of lovely memory of thinking how things have only got better. So a little personal thank you, Kate. But honestly, it makes such a difference of discovering you through a friend or whatever it is. And then the difference it makes is just extraordinary, where we all just let things happen. We let the flow happen. And then, you know, like me at the moment, I'm on cloud 9, but it really does happen and it does transform. It's fantastic. Thank you.
thank you. I'm so very glad you did find me.
We all are, Kate. But I
Yes.
just want to pick up on something that Fiona just said. I think most of you know I'm a sports fanatic, and I was watching the Australian Open earlier today. The two women, there's a 19-year-old there, Igna Swiatek, I think I said that correctly, and she was playing one of the top seeds, Fiona Halep. And they were saying how this 19-year-old had a psychologist come and coach her, and what he taught her was lower your expectations and up your commitment. I'm putting that on a tennis court, but I thought that was just really a great way to look at life. Just commit to whatever it is that you're doing without any expectations that are there. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, Fiona. I thought I'd share it.
I really like that. That is, yeah, upping the commitment. And it doesn't have to be,
She won the French Open at the age of 19, her first Grand Slam she entered, so it works.
and I think often we're too afraid to commit. I'm sure I can put myself in that boat. Yeah, we can be too afraid to commit because we're afraid of the failure. We're afraid of not having those expectations met or achieving the goals.
Yeah, I think what for me, I wrote this down, Megan. Thank you. Lower expectations and up the commitment. And for me, what gets in between those is that self-judgment. And going back to the puzzle pieces, you know, for me, I think that what I'm realizing from what we're all discussing here is that when we feel into that fit, that those puzzle pieces, when we feel, at least for me, when I feel the most self-judgment, I'm picking up on being in an environment where I'm trying to force my puzzle piece into a place of other people and their judgment and an environment of judgment. And that's a sign that's what makes me, not makes me, that's where I find myself in places where I'm too attached, where I do have expectations, where I'm not committing. It's that judgment thing. And that's what's so lovely about this group is this is an environment of complete lack of judgment, for which I am just so thankful. It's enormous.
I love that. And I agree. I mean, I think that judgment is often, whether it's self-judgment or fear of judgment of others, can be something that is an incredible stumbling block, and that can actually stop us from doing many, many things. And at this time where we are being urged to step beyond what we've known, step into new path, will step onto new paths, to create new paths. It can be a real hindrance if we're worried about judgment, or if we are afraid of judgment. And I'm trying to remember when I had this conversation, but it has been in the last week or two. And I was chatting with a friend about her husband, and he is one of the least judgmental people I've ever come across. I mean, he judges no one. And when asked why he is so non-judgmental, he said, because I've probably done worse in my life than anyone else has ever done. So he's, and he doesn't say that coming from a place of self-criticism, because he's also one of the most joyful people I've ever met, because he doesn't actually judge himself either. And he has done some pretty wild things. And I kind of, there are often times where I've looked at the choices he's made and gone, that's teetering on the edge. But he does not judge himself. He sees every experience that he has as an experience, not as something to, am I doing something right or am I doing something wrong? It's just an experience. And I think that's also what we need to remember, is that we are here to experience. Some of the things that we are experiencing, we've never experienced before. Many of the experiences that we've had are because that is what our soul has chosen. Even if we can look at it and think, well, that was quite a stupid choice. I mean, there have been many times that I've kind of said, note to soul, we are never doing that one again. Because, you know, the outcome of whatever that has been pretty painful. But how do we judge ourselves and judge anyone else when we don't know the journey that the soul has chosen? And I think for anyone who watched the podcast video that I did recently around the conscious masculinity initiative that I'm getting involved in, and you know, one of the things that has become so clear for me over the years is that people often do things that are perceived as wrong because they are in such incredible pain. And I think if we can step into that space of having compassion rather than judgment for ourselves and for everyone else, then we shift that dynamic completely. And even, you know, even I can look at myself and see some of the resistance that I still have, and I can look at some of the attachment that I still have, and I can look at some of the and I mean, I'll joke about them, and I'll share funny stories about things that I do, and you know, there's some incredibly bad parenting moments that I've had, and I still do them, and afterwards I have to step back and apologize to my children for what I've done or what I've said or how I've behaved. Yeah, and I think that it's so important that instead of and my children have taught me this, actually, instead of criticizing myself for it, it's just understanding why I did it. And my children have amazed me so many times with how perceptive they are, because I will do something and I will behave in a particular way, or I will say something, and at the time it's this stuff just pours out of my mouth and I can't stop it. And only afterwards, when I've calmed down or I've stepped away from the situation, do I think about what it is that I've done or what it is that I've said, and I'm a bit horrified of myself. And I will go and have a conversation with them and apologize. And their response to me has always been, we understand why you behave that way. I mean, there have been times where my eldest daughter has walked up to me, put her hands on my shoulders and said to me, we love you. You are not being abandoned. You are not being criticized. You are not being judged. You are not being rejected. We love you. And just the, I mean, how does an 18-year-old come up with, and she started doing that when she was 18. How does an 18-year-old come up with that? How does she even know that that's what I'm feeling? I don't even know that that's what I'm feeling. You know, I realize that's what I'm feeling because she's suddenly saying it and it's hitting a nerve, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I am feeling all of those things and I better sort this out. You know, so instead of fighting with me, she's seeing me, and she's seeing the pain that I'm in, and is able to hold that space of compassion rather than conflict. And I think that we need to move into that space for ourselves, because that is where the real work happens, or the real healing happens for us.
I was going to say, Kate, don't they also send you to bed or ask you to eat something?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's time for you to go and have a rest, Mom.
How lovely to have
You're
that understanding. That's a really lovely support to have.
You raised them well, Kate.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do know that there were many times in the last 20 odd years that my ex-husband has told me, don't you think it's a little inappropriate that the girls know this? Because I have been pretty open about my life and my past and my family dynamics, and I have tried to explain to them why I am the way that I am, versus just I think it's because I just didn't want them to ever be afraid of me. You know, I wanted them to know that it was just my human stuff, which I think is important. And I think we need to share that. You know, there is no shame in sharing your journey and what you've experienced.
Kate, just interrupt. Have you watched a film called Captain Fantastic? I don't know if anybody's watched it. Somebody recommended it to me the other day, and it's a father who's bringing up all these children in the forest, and unfortunately his wife's bipolar and things, but it's an extraordinary story where his children are so knowledgeable and there's just no barriers between them, and therefore they, you know, they take everything as fact. It's not protect the children and don't tell them this or that, and it's really quite heartwarming. It's disturbing as well as being a really heartwarming film, but there's a sort of innocence of being protected, and there's a sort of the knowledge you have by obviously knowing what everything's going on, but then you become almost weird in society because you're too open and you don't have that barrier of knowing when things are appropriate or not. So it's a fine balance, but it's just a film that sprung to mind when you were saying about that honesty and relationship between you and your children, which is nice.
I love that movie. I found it right. Yeah, I really love that movie. It's quite an old one. Yeah, a couple of years old, but it really is good. And I did love how he brings up his children. One thing that I did do for my kids when they were growing up is tell them that not everyone was as open to sharing as we were, and that it could make people feel afraid. So they learned very quickly to suss out the situation and know how much was appropriate for that particular person. But it did make things challenging for them in some ways at school, because they were always a little bit more emotionally mature than their peers. And I've had to be very careful to teach them not to become caretakers. My eldest daughter can certainly find all the lame ducks and bring them home.
Kate, I think well done. I think the openness helps them. It helps them see themselves more clearly and, you know, get on their journey a little faster. So well done.
Thanks, Lorraine. Okay. I was going to read out Joni's message. Joni needs help choosing paint colors for her new home, so she'd like us all to pop over and have a look. She says the wall looks like a rainbow, and the retail store thinks it's very funny with all the samples I took. I understand that. Maybe you should hold each paint sample and, you know, put it to your heart and see which one feels like it's the best. You could try with the small stuff before you have to try with the big stuff. yeah, practicing with the small stuff is often a good way to go. She says her son at least thinks it looks like a nice new flag. Sweet. Okay, has anyone got any other questions they'd like to ask or anything else they'd like to share before we get into some meditating?
Kate, I just wanted to go back to what Sarah was talking about, because it made me think of all the times in my life that I was unexpectedly knocked down. I tore my ACL and was on crutches for 5 months, you know, those kinds of events in life. And what I found over the years is it always was the universe's way of slowing me down when I couldn't slow myself down. And also my other lesson, and I don't know if this is Sarah's, was that givers need to be receivers. And every time that happened, and believe me, it's happened a stupid number of times, it made me have to stop and accept help from others and receive, so that givers need to be receivers so that others can be givers. And it's really hard for somebody who's always reaching out to help everybody else to stop and have somebody be so down. At one point I had 2 broken ankles at the same time, and I couldn't like get a meal without help, nothing, you know. But what it made me do was stop and let other people take care of me for a bit, and maybe just shifted my perspective a little bit. And so I have a saying that God does for us, or the universe does for us, what we cannot do for ourselves, and takes those things out of our hands and says, you won't slow down, I'll slow you down. So anyway, I don't know if that helps, Sarah.
Thank you, Nancy. Yes, I can identify with that, with the receiving thing as well, definitely. And I think, you know, on this sort of journey as well, like even like the last couple of months, like when I had my sort of last crash, which was in early December, and it's sort of been trying to rebuild from that. And then this, you know, these 2 weeks, it's been so up and down. Again, it's just, you know, I'm just needing to receive some more. It's that whole thing about the contraction before the expansion, I think, as well, sort of keeps coming. And I've been, you know, lots of people have been very kind over the last sort of 2-3 years, and that has been, yeah, it's been amazing to have that. So yes, I really identify with that. So thank you.
But it's also a very uncomfortable feeling when you have somebody look after you and you have to receive, when you're used to doing things for other people and being independent, because that's kind of my strength has always been I'm fine on my own, I can do it all. And then letting somebody in to help you, you kind of almost feel a bit like a charity case. It's like, oh, they're being really sweet and how nice and how kind. But then I sort of try and remind myself that when I'm giving or doing something for somebody else, it's not because I'm seeing them as a charity case. It's because I love them, I care, and I do it. So it's easy when you receive to actually sometimes feel a little worse because you think everybody's feeling sorry for you. But actually it's a very normal thing. But when you're not used to it, it does take time to adapt and realize that people do it because they want to, and it makes them feel good, not that they're trying to perk you up for feeling bad.
I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely hear that as well. I'm not crying, by the way, my eye's just doing something funny. But Fiona, I was going to ask, where are you moving to? Are you in England? Because you've definitely got an English accent. Where are you moving?
I am. I'm in London. I'm in Fulham, and I'm just actually moving into Kensington, so a little bit further into town. But it's been a struggle selling my house, and it's finally happening, which is why I'm packing boxes and doing everything else. But can't wait. Where are you, Sarah?
Well, at the moment I'm with my parents in Cheshire in the north, so I am being looked after, as in, because it's lockdown. I was sort of back in London between September and December, but yes, so I'm here now. But I'm in Earlsfield, but I'm part of my vision is that I want to be somewhere else. Don't know where that is, probably near sea and mountains and countryside, but that's part of the evolving whatever's going to happen.
Well, if it's any sort of consolation, I had this great plan to move about 5 years ago, and I've been trying to move for years and years, and then finally when I did move, it was nothing like I intended 5 years ago. So again, it's that whole thing of it all just happened the way it did. So
Yeah, no, it's really nice to know. And now I'm feeling this feeling of trust, like people have been talking about. And was it the lovely, was it, what was the name of the lady who you read out, Kate, her thing at the beginning? Laurie.
Leonie.
Yeah,
Leonie.
Leonie. Yeah, I think it's just that trust thing. Yeah. Thank you. Oh,
Oh, Leonie actually has also written here, one of the last things my mom had to learn was to receive, and now my lesson too. And more than anything, receiving my own acceptance and love. Yeah, I agree. Lorraine's just said all learning to just go with the flow. Well, at least we're not alone in this flow journey in the river. We all are doing it together. Okay. All right. Well, if you're ready, let's settle into a comfy spot and see what and where we go with today's meditation. So when you're ready, just settle in and allow yourself to close your eyes. And just draw your awareness to your breath, to your breathing. And just take a couple of deep breaths. And allow yourself to let go of any tension, any pressure. Allow yourself to let go of any stress, any worries, any anxieties. And allow yourself to become calm and still. And just allow your awareness to drop into your physical body. And just becoming aware of any areas in your body where you're holding tension, discomfort, or pain. Just allow yourself a moment or two to breathe into those spaces and to allow them to expand. And for the stress or the discomfort or the tension or the pain to just dissipate. And becoming aware of the flow of your breath as it moves in and out of your body. And now draw your awareness to your mind's eye. And see or imagine yourself sitting on the beach, looking out across the ocean. The sun is rising in the distance. And there are beautiful streaks of color in the sky. There is a gentle movement to the ocean waves. And you watch as the waves come in and move out. It's peaceful and calm in this beautiful space. And you allow your breath to flow with the in and the outflow of the tide. Feel yourself sinking with the ocean. And you allow yourself to breathe in the peace and the tranquility of this beautiful ocean space. You feel how deeply connected you are to the waters. To the tides. And when you're ready, you stand up and move towards the ocean. Feeling the water washing over your feet and your ankles. You begin to move into the sea. Moving deeper and deeper until you are able to completely submerge yourself under the water. And you allow yourself to float within the gentle waves, feeling the ocean supporting you. Watching the sky. And you allow the ocean to cleanse you, to clear you, and to wash away all the heaviness, denseness, the pain, the heartache, the confusion, the uncertainty, and the fear. Just allowing it all to wash away, to be cleared from your body, from your mind, from your heart, and from your energy. And now allowing the water to replenish you, to feed you and to restore your energy. Feel your energy being recharged and rejuvenated. Feel yourself becoming lighter. And continuing to float. Just ask if there's anything or any message that you need at this time. Clarity, insight, guidance. Just allow yourself to feel message of what you need right now. And when you're ready, begin to make your way out of the water and back onto the beach. Thanking the water for its blessings, for its gift. Take a few deep breaths and bring yourself back into this time, into this space, and into your body. Moving your fingers and your toes and opening your eyes when you're ready. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. Good. Yeah, it felt really, I think, restorative. I certainly felt like I was being, my energy was being restored, which is lovely. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, definitely flow seems to be the theme at the moment. Flow and self-care. Those are the two ones that keep coming up at the moment. But thankfully, when we have a little bit more light in the energy, it definitely feels easier to do those things. It's funny how when we're feeling bad, we don't do the things we know we should be doing to make ourselves feel better. A really bad human trait. But hopefully this week you can all step into the flow and allow life to take you where it needs to. And I look forward to seeing where that is next week. Because these days a lot happens in a week. But thank you all again for joining me, and lovely to have some new faces. Thank you for finding your way here. Have a brilliant week, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Thanks, Kate. Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Thanks, Nancy.
Happy
You too.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, yes, happy Valentine's Day. I don't have a Valentine, so all of you are my Valentines.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next week. Have a brilliant rest of your weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye. Thank
Yours.
you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. Lovely to meet you. Cheers. Bye.